Hello, everybody.
Κάτσε περίμενε.
Πες μου.
Τώρα.
Hello, everybody. Welcome today. This is, I think, the fifth webinar we do this year. And since we are in the middle of the summer, we thought that we will do something different, a different type of webinar. So this is not so much product oriented. This is about technology and education, about the trends, things we see happening. We will give our experience of how the market is changing, what are the major issues that schools have and educational institutions in general. And we hope that you will find this presentation enlightening and interesting. So if you don't know much about Cluster, we will say a few words about what we do as a product. But this is today is not a product presentation. It's more about learning about all the rest. So the agenda, I will introduce myself first of all. So this is something I haven't done so far. So let me do it today and say a few words about Cluster for the people who don't know Cluster, talk about the technology in education, the EdTech market. We will discuss the key issues and areas in school administration, which is the area of focus for Cluster. And then we will say a few words about Cluster and how what the application can do. And hopefully at the end of the day, you will be able to go to our website and fill in a form and get a full presentation about the product and learn more about it. Myself, I'm an electrical engineer with an MBA. I started my career in IBM back in '96. Worked as IT director and project as IT consultant in Norway, UK, and Sweden. And then I came back to Greece, worked for manufacturing, where my experience was around CRM ERPs. And 2007, we started EdTech, which was a consulting company, which eventually was converted to Cluster in 2015 after we got some seed investment. And yeah, that's all. So a few things about Cluster. So Cluster is an end-to-end school learning management platform, which is suitable for any kind of educational institutions. And that was our initial idea behind Cluster. We thought, let's create a cloud web-based solution that people can easily consume over the cloud, but we should make it very configurable, very flexible, and you should be able to use the solution if you are from a small school or large organization, from a university or from a kindergarten, from a school or language school or a music school, it doesn't matter. Wherever you are in worldwide, you should be able to use the same application, just you need to configure it. And this is where we strive now to get an excellence to allow easy configuration of all these things. The history of Cluster started in 2015 when we got some initial seed investment from a Luxembourg VC firm. The nice thing with Cluster and the team is that we live next to the sea in Kavala, North Greece, outside of Thessaloniki, so we enjoy the fact that we can walk the whole day and then go to the beach to swim during summer, or we can go to a ski resort in 2 hours time from now in Bulgaria and do skiing. So nice place to live, and they have a startup. And that helped a lot because the team was very stable and like a family, stayed together and has invested a lot of effort and energy on the Cluster. And fast forward 6 years later, we have more than 500 different institutions, paid customers in 30 countries, more than 500,000 active users on the system. Our largest project is in MCAST University in Malta. 9 active regional resellers, 4,000 schools in a free edition, about 150 they actively use the free edition. We're talking about very small entities, up to 50 students. 40 different functional modules that I'm going to describe a bit later. And of course, a strategic global partnership with Microsoft that has helped a lot to improve and integrate the software with Office 365, with Azure, Teams, and so on. The presence of the software right now, it's mainly Europe, North America, but also we do have some presence in Middle East, some presence in Africa, and we started having presence in Asia. We have got a lot of recognition so far, so we've been one of the 10 best EdTech startups in Europe. last year the best EdTech cloud solution in Greece, the best South European startup in 2019. So a lot of awards, and we keep getting recognition. And the question I have got many times, okay, how did you end up deciding after working with telecom and so on to focus on education and technology in education? And everything started by the realization that technology is going to change a lot. It's going to change schools a lot, and that schools, teaching classes, universities are going to be disrupted by the technology, and the way we learn and the way we teach is going to be completely disrupted by the technology. And this is how we decided that the education sector and EdTech, technology and education, is a very interesting sector to be. That was a decision back in 2015, and since then a lot has happened. Mostly the COVID and this lockdown has helped people to realize how much technology is important for the education and how much people need technology on the daily work, in a daily teaching and learning process. So let's talk about technology and education and see our perspective on that. So the fact is that although we have been through this COVID area, COVID season, the education hasn't changed much. So it's more or less the same thing. So if you see, this is a car of 96 and this is a car of 2020, everybody can realize how much a car has changed the last maybe 60 years. The industry has been completely disrupted, and a lot of things has happened, and still this is a very conservative industry. The things change very slowly in this industry. If you go and see an office in the 1970s, and then you see how an office looks like today, the difference is even more dramatic. The way we work, we collaborate, we execute our business has been completely changed since 1970s. And this is thanks to technology or due to technology. The same thing with telecommunication, that not far away when I was at university, we didn't have any mobile phones. You have to go to stationary phones and speak to your friends, arrange a meeting or arrange a night out. Nowadays, you do everything on the go. You have mobiles, you have smartphones, you have contact communication with everybody, and that has changed a lot the way we work. Now this is how a classroom was back in the 1970s when I was a child, and this is how a classroom is in most of places today. In most of the world, if you go out of the very good private institutions, a classroom looks like this. All public classrooms in Greece look like this, or even worse. And or in the best case, maybe the format of the class has changed, so people can be more in a collaborative setting. But still, the way you teach is more or less the same as it was 50 years ago. And okay, sometimes we use maybe technology, we use a projector, maybe a smart board, something like this. People may use tablets or computing in the classroom, and this is where we go. But still, we don't see a huge change on the way we teach and learn. But this is what we believe is going to happen now. We believe that this is going to be completely disrupted, and we really believe that in 10 years from now, almost no classroom will be like the classroom in the 1970s. And of course, that is driven by things like distance learning, distance sessions. However, at the same time, we realize, and everybody realizes, how difficult it is really to be productive as a teacher or as a learner when things are done only remotely. And one of the reasons that people find so many difficulties to go and do things remotely is that they have tried to do this without proper systems without a good configuration, without a back office infrastructure that supports them and allows them to do all these steps to move from a physical classroom of 1970s to a distance learning classroom and to a new way of teaching. So technology is crucial and needs to be not only on the front. It's not only important to have Zoom or Teams or WebEx. It is important to have all the infrastructure required to manage this process in all terms, starting from admission, going down to delivery of classes, organization, assessments. In all these sections, you need to use technology in a coherent and organized way and an integrated way. Let's hear about, discuss about education and society and what is the difference between the society back and society now. This is a photo presenting kids in the age of maybe 3 years old. And what you see is basically you see kids playing on a PlayStation, on a computer game, and it's very common. We see kids age of 2 or 1 to use tablet, and intuitive start using tablet, and that creates a new generation where the feelings about what is interesting are completely different. The way they think, they start thinking when even they're babies, is completely different, and they get a different set of stimulus, and that makes the people to be completely different. And those babies and those kids are not like the kids 20 years ago or 10 years ago, because they are so much exposed to the videos, to the picture, to the fast-moving things, to a lot of information. And anything else stops being interesting. So that photo presents how kids enjoy today. They get a lot of reflection from the tools they use, and this make them to behave differently. That is one of the reasons you see this huge increase on issues like the special learning needs or difficulties to learn or concentrate. And all this is because kids, they grow up with a computer in front of them, with a screen in front of them, with a tablet in front of them. And we cannot expect this to change. We cannot expect to force a kid not to use this technology. We need to adapt. We need to find ways to make teaching, learning, schools, and the whole system to work and behave differently in order to accommodate the needs of these new kids. Of course, we can put constraints. We should put constraints. Of course, we should try to avoid having the kids in front of the screen the whole day, but inevitably, this is a lost battle. You need to find ways to make kids loving learning, even when they spend on a daily basis a considerable amount of time in the front of the screen of tablets. So we need to think about how we can do this. And that is one of the things that technology needs to work on and focus on. Let's discuss about the global education market and realize how much this has changed. What we see is a tremendous increase on spending on education. So in less than 25 years, the global spending on education has tripled almost, and that means that education is maybe the second business sector worldwide after health, and this is driven by the increase of population and the increase of young population and the increasing demand for education in developing countries, in Asia and in Africa. And this is what we see also as a provider of solution. We see that people spend more and more money on education. Education becomes a dominant sector, and everybody is investing on that in different ways because they see a booming market. At the same time, it goes through a huge disruption phase. And the disruption starts by the fact that more and more young people, they add educational system. This is, although people, they don't realize, one of the things that has happened in the last 20 years is that the developing countries or non-developed countries, they start turning into a more civilized type of societies, and that means that they spend much more money on education. So we see a tremendous increase in Asia, in Africa, in Latin America, and where there are billions of young people, and people they will go more and more to do a higher degree, finalize high school, and go for a graduated for a higher education degree. So what we see people to get more educated, and we see people more people to get into the education system, and that has done the global education market to be a very big one. And as I said, maybe after the healthcare market is the second one. However, if you check this picture carefully, you will see that the global healthcare market has 8 trillion value, and the market capitalization of this market is 5 trillion. So that means that this goes hand to hand, more or less, where the global educational market has 5 trillion value, annual value, and the capitalization of the global education market technologies firms is only 300 billions. That means that the firms that provide the institutions that they provide education, they have very low capitalization, so they don't value, they are not valued that much in the market. Of course, one thing that is not very well described here is that the fact of this is influenced by, all these are influenced by the fact that a lot of education is state-owned, and that changes a bit the numbers. Nevertheless, the 5 trillion, we are talking about the expenditure on education, which is a private one. So still it's a huge market, excluding the public sector. And still there is a huge difference between the market and the size of the companies. And there is a lot to catch up, which means all the education type of institutions, they are going to grow within the next few years. And one of the reasons that this happens is we believe that this is a very, very conservative sector, and is one sector that hasn't invested much money on technology traditionally. So if you see today, if somebody checks how much money are spent on technology in education, you see only 4% of the total cost of education is related to technology. All the rest, which is a huge amount of money, it's more than 6 trillion, is spent on labor, which is normal because we're talking about teachers, physical equipment, bricks, buildings, utilities, things like that. So it seems to be that technology education today still is not used much. That is changing, it's changing rapidly, but still it's in a very, very low percentage. This can present to everybody how much growth we can expect on the usage of technology in the education sector. And that's also is the official or the estimation from Holon IQ, that basically what they expect is that the digital spend on education will grow from almost 230 billions to more than 400 billion within 5 years. And the growth pace will go up, will almost double. So that means that we expect more and more spend on education, on digital spend on education, and more digitalization of any educational process. That has already been realized by the capital firms and those who invest, and venture capital funding has been boomed on 2020s. And in reality, the projection of 2021 is that we will reach the 16 billions by the end of August. So it seems that right now, a huge amount of money is being invested in firms like Cluster in order to achieve the expected digitalization of the market. The interesting thing here to note is that the country leading this effort is China, although the, let's say, the big buyers, the companies that they buy other smaller companies and they invest on education, they are usually from the United States. So United States still is the biggest player together with UK, but we see China catching up and investing a lot of money on startups that they work with education. Another big player that is doing impressive work in the area is India. And all these are led by the fact that those countries, China, India, they have a huge number of young people, and all of them, they have they need to get educated, and that means that there are tremendous opportunities for education and for the companies delivering education. So, in a snapshot, education, it is a very fast-growing global market. It is the second largest global market. However, technology is not utilized as expected. It is maybe the sector in the global economy with a less number and the less percentage of digitalization. However, this is changing. We expecting more EdTech, more technology, more digitalization in education, and it's important for all players there to be ready to exploit the opportunity from the boom that is happening, that is led by the population booming, by a huge number of young people entering the education market in developing countries, and now they have the money to invest in education, and eventually that change will change the way countries behave and the capabilities of all countries, and of course will change the balance worldwide. So we expect this huge investment in education to enable developing countries to have an educated workforce within the next 20 years, changing the balances between the Western world and the rest of the world. In that environment, we believe that the ICT and technology in education plays a significant role. However, we still see that the global information technology in education is very fragmented, very localized. Solutions are usually very local, and still there are not enough cloud and SaaS-based solutions employed, but this is changing rapidly. So, the new era of education is characterized by a number of things. One is, and foremost, that we move from a low technology teaching environment to a high technology teaching environment. Not only distance, but also in the classroom. Teachers have to get digital skills. They have to know how to teach using technology, and that is a very difficult and painful process for them, for most of them, but it's something that is going to happen. And as new generation of teachers, they are going to join schools, we expect this to accelerate. The second thing is that we expect and we see changes on the way curriculums are structured and managed. Traditionally, most of countries that have national, regional standardization curriculums on what is taught, and we move from that direction to a more localized curriculum building. So in some countries you see cities or communities or group of schools to be able to define their own curriculum, what books they teach, how they teach, what subjects, how they expect students to progress from one year to the other. But eventually what we are planning and we believe we see, it's completely personalized curriculums. We expect to see technology like machine learning and artificial intelligence to be employed to support students and teachers to make sound decisions about what subjects they will get next year and to follow their own personalized curriculum. So there will be no size that fit all, but we will see many differences on the way that people learn, on the way that curriculum is delivered, on the way that teachers teach. Another thing that happens is, as now knowledge is available and people has access to the knowledge and to the information easily, we believe that education will be converted from a knowledge delivery mechanism to a mechanism where we are going to coach young people how to learn, how to be able to retrieve knowledge from the information, be able to find the fake news from the real news, fake information from the real information, and so on. The learning is not so much related to getting knowledge, it's more related to getting experience. And that means that we believe that the learning in the future will be more project-oriented. We will see more personalized projects also, and basically schools will be the areas where people will gather to go through this process of learning through experience, through project, and learning through coaching. So that is a huge difference of the way that educational institutions are going to be organized in the future, and require tremendous organization and information flow on the processes and how schools work. A lot of people try to do this kind of stuff, but usually they try to do it with not enough investment in technology, which they always find to be a cost instead of being a vehicle and a mechanism to provide new ways of teaching and learning. So we believe that this personalization, changed way of learning will always, we will completely change schools. I can give examples of how things can work in the future. For example, one of the things we expect systems to do in the near future is to understand how people learn. So depending of how each student can learn, the system should be adapted and present more information to the student related to their learning mechanism. So some people, they just prefer reading, other people watching, other people listening. So the systems in the future should be able to accommodate these needs and provide content and knowledge with different ways. For being able to do all this, we need to have very advanced statistics and analytics powered by machine learning and artificial intelligence algorithms that they can find out the specific ways each person learns, the specific ways each person progresses, find problems very early, and point out what is going wrong with a student or early enough. So the technology can change completely the value of a school if it's used on the right way, but it requires also a set of users, teachers and other users that are trained to do so. So this is a very difficult problem to solve, but we believe as technology gets more and more mature, that is going to go through this direction. So let's discuss about the key issues and areas in the school administration and management. The same thing is valid for higher education. Things maybe it's more different. They have small differences in different levels of education, but the truth is that basically the same kind of problems you find in all levels of education and in all geographies. So the truth is, managing a school or a university, it is equal to managing a small city. So think about a school, a leading private K-12 school from kindergarten, 12 years of education with 1,000 students. That school has about 2,000 parents to communicate with. They may have 50, 80, 150 educators, depending on the way of teaching, 20, 30 employees, even more. And during they may have even 1,500 applicants or even more, and then taking consideration also other things, external partners, suppliers. We are talking a very big number of potential users that they run a huge number of different processes that you need to manage on a secure and effective way. So what are the major issues you have when you manage a school, which is like managing a city? So you have, first of all, information flow and communication issues. A school is not like a place where you can leave communication to go unmanaged and ad hoc. You need to have rules. You can, for example, you are a professor at university, you should be able to communicate only with children or kids or students that you teach. Or you are a parent in a K-12 school, you should be probably able to communicate with parents of the same class of your child, but usually you are not allowed to communicate with other children of the school. So all these communication restrictions should be in the systems, and any of you who have been trying to manage all these understands how difficult this can be to manage and implement as a policy, and the details that you need to take in consideration. All these go hand by hand with security and access consideration. Security is related to things like consent, is related to things like personal information, medical information, access to the marks. If a teacher can see the marks of another teacher for a specific child, if a student can see the marks of another student, if personal information or remarks about a child or a student or a professor is shown to other people, how we handle complaints. There are thousands of different systems, and we need and different pieces of information we need to protect. And imagine all this now to be in your local server room, exposed to easy access to somebody who can get into the system and take the whole server and leave. Or imagine this being on the cloud, and then have it easy to the dangers of anybody attacking the system and stealing all the data. At the same time, the other biggest problem, the very big problem that exists in schools, is the planning and monitoring of all processes, how things are progressing, if things are done on time, if they are done properly, starting from timetable and scheduling creation, going down to managing calendar events, communication, parents, teachers meeting, student teachers meeting, managing the delivery of content, of assessments, of grade books and reports, the admission, payments. It's really huge. The other area that usually is, it is one of the last areas that people organize, but still it's very important, is on the medical and special education needs area. Not only keeping the information, but managing the information, informing people, monitoring this information, taking actions. That is quite an important area that people sometimes they overlook, but still that is very important. The next big section, it is related to the content, delivery of content, of material, of homework, the overview of what has been done, the teaching facilitation, taking attendance. All these are an important sector that you need to manage. And of course, this is related to the behavior, performance, and results monitoring and management. So managing assessments and giving marks, managing term grades, grade reports, graduation from year to the next year, behavior, pointing system, thumb ups and downs, badges, you name it. It's so many detentions, so many different things. And of course, managing the actual persons, managing the communication with those, all the personal data, the demographic data, the census data, giving statistics to the government, selling data to external systems. So it is really overwhelming. So most of the schools, they try to solve this by using different systems. In many cases, they don't have enough budget, so they have to use different free systems or very cheap systems. They create too many databases, so they end up with the problem we called islands of technology. That means we have a lot of different data sets. So the student information, the teacher information lives in different databases, in data set, in Excel, in files, in this Access, in this SQL Server database, of that MySQL. And then you try somehow to integrate all this, but usually you end up into a situation which we call it islands of technology, so different not connected systems or very lousy connected. And then the management will come, a report will be asked, and you need to retrieve data from 10 different places, or you need to find a way to transport data from one to the other. And it's getting more and more difficult. As you grow and use more technology in more places, that gets more and more difficult. That is then also combined with problems of security and lack of control, especially in communication, and a lot of concerns on GDPR, consent management, who can see what. We have a divorced couple, what they can see, what each person can see, who has access to the student data. All this, and easily everybody understands how complex this is. And the funny thing is that most of the users in school level or university level, they are at the end of the day teachers, they are students, so they are not really experienced business users. So we are talking about a lot of users, so maybe 5,000 users for a simple school, or maybe 15,000 for a university, and those users must be managed, although they are not very experienced, and they need to use complex processes. And the funny thing is that most of these institutions, they have very low budget. They cannot compare their budget with a bank or with a manufacturer or an insurance company that they really invest a lot of money in technology. The magnitude of investment is at least 1/10 of those institutions. However, they have similar needs and very big number of users and huge problem to manage all these complex processes. So during the lockdown, what was the lessons learned? So what we found out that a lot of people, especially in the ministry level or community level, a lot of difficulties arise by the fact they didn't have centrally managed systems. They had a lot of disconnected systems, a lot of people that had to do a lot of things to export data, put them in Zoom, put them in Teams, create schedules, find ways to communicate with your teachers, opening Viber rooms, using Skype, using Messenger. We have experience in Greece, where I live, where people were trying, teachers and students, to take an account to log on to a system, and the system was down because 1 million people were trying to take an account at the same day because no account was pre-created, and things were created the last minute after everybody realized that we have to work from home. At the same time, the next thing that people realize is that how much not educated teachers were. There were very few teachers or lecturers who were ready to do so, especially in the middle education, the K-12 education. Teachers were not prepared to teach online. It is different thing to teach in a classroom, a complete methodology to teach online. And then people say, oh, this online stuff doesn't work. Of course it doesn't work, because you try to teach the same way you teach in the classroom. You try to teach via Skype or via WebEx or via Zoom. And it's not the same thing. You need to have a different methodology, a different way of teaching, a different material, different preparation, and you don't, because you don't expect a teacher to do all this. It's impossible to expect each single teacher to prepare the material and to find a new methodology to teach. You need to have them prepared, you need to have the material, you need to have the systems, you need to give them the tools to do so. So the lack of material, content, and systems all together created a big mess in most of the areas, in most of the countries, and this is a global problem. And that presents how little education is digitalized worldwide. If we take an exception of United States, maybe UK, Australia, the Scandinavia, we are talking about maybe, I don't know, 7 billion people. They get educated with a very traditional way, and that must be changed if those people should be competitive to the rest of the Western world, and it's going to change. So we have seen the lack of planning and control coming in front of the face of everybody during the lockdown, and the lack of this kind of system was very, very clear. So if we try to create an info map of all the different things an educational institution of any level they need to do, depending on the level they may do different things, but starting from the left, you can start with admissions and sales. So how you get and attract students into your educational institution. You can work with two different ways, either attracting or selecting. So in a higher education, usually we select students. If you are a private institution, you attract students. Nevertheless, it's the same process. You need to find them and go through an application process, select them, agree with them, and then by the end of the day, if you are a private institution, they need to pay some deposit and they start their studies. Then we have all the things that are related to how to manage this process, which is called including personal documents you need to upload, consents to answer, qualification certifications to upload or provide to the school, to manage the personal data demographics, like the relatives, the addresses, the information, the phone numbers, all the things you need, the place of birth, the nationality, the religion in some cases. So all this must be managed. Then it's all the medical and special education need that the student or the parent knows already that we need to upload, we need to put the certifications about it, we need to inform the school so the school can take actions. Then is the management of the school itself, the locations and buildings, the classrooms, the resources, the creation of the curriculums, the educational programs, the groups in the classes, the subjects or the courses, and the enrollment of self-enrollment of the students to this information. So we keep what are the classes, what subject in each class a student do, who teaches what, creating the timetable then, and then managing the timetable on a weekly basis by creating sessions and creating lessons and giving the material of what we do and comparing the material of the plan we have and adding the plan in a digital format so people can use it every year and know what they have to teach in each lesson and compare what they have taught with the lesson, the plan. Then we have what you do during the term or the semester. You do assessments, you do assignments, you ask people to do work and return it back to you. You market, you create group of people, they work together and you have to collaborate, they have to collaborate, and you have to mark them and you have to give some official assessment of the result of the work. They need to return the work to you. Then at the end of the semester or the term, and that can be quite complex, you may you want to provide assessments, marking results, annual results, and you need to manage all this, deliver to the parents, to the students, to automate the process. And at the end of the day, you need to run the annual results and promote students, take the transcripts out, know who can get a degree, provide certifications, and so on. We have the quizzes, online exams, people who can go and answer things online and provide us a feedback about their knowledge. We have the attendance and behavior management. So we need to take attendance, we need to take presence, to take late, we need to manage the behavior. If they are disrupted in the classroom, we need to register that. We need to give badges to the small kids. We need to give thumbs up, thumbs downs. We have to manage sometimes content and material. People need to download that, videos, score material, all this. We need to manage communication and announcements to give information to the people, to announce an event, a Christmas party, a special class gathering. We have to manage all the meetings. We have to have specific timetables for the teachers to accept students or parents. And they need to go and book time, and we need to do these meetings, can be online, can be physical. So we need to manage all this. And then we have the surveys. So satisfaction questionnaires, if people are happy, that can be quite complex. So we can have parents answering for the school, kids answering for the books or for the content of the subject for a meeting, or you can assess the quality of a meeting or the quality of an assessment. So it can be quite complex, and the distribution of that questionnaires can be quite complex. They have the whole flows they have in the school. So you register a remark, a logbook, you register a bullying event. All these must be managed by creating workflows. People have to do different things, call parents, or book a meeting with a professor, investigate a fraud situation, see what's going on, and so on. We have the library, where you have to go reserve books, get the books from the library, download media. We have the transportation of the students. How do we get the students to the school? How do we get them out of the school? How do we manage the school buses, the routes, and so on? All these are combined into the security access. People may need to check in, check out, be access to specific areas. We need to check in students to the medical office. Then we have things like extracurriculum activities, trips, outings, clubs, supplementary learning, language learning, things that happen in the afternoon. We have the food and cantinas that we need to manage. And of course, we have the billing. If you're a private institution or even if you're public, there are things you need to bill, tuition fees, extracurriculum activities charges, outings charges, trips charges. And of course, you need to manage all the HR of the student, all the teacher HR, the progression of these guys, the CVs, the leave of absence, and so on, the holidays, all these you need to manage. So, and of course, for all that, you need statistics, reporting, and you need to monitor the processes, you need to put controls, and so on. More or less, this is what Cluster does. Or wherever you see the X, it is something that we don't really touch today, or we don't touch fully at least. Where you see a check, we touch it either to a good extent or to a full extent. Okay, so we're talking about a huge program that does different things. This is what Cluster is about. So let's talk about the Cluster application overview. So Cluster is a software as a service solution. It's fully customizable, configurable, and the idea is to manage all these processes in a full ecosystem. So it is a learning management system. Keep in mind that we are not a learning manager for distance learning. We are learning manager mainly for physical classes. So we expect a teacher to teach. We don't. It is not so much about completely distance self-learning. It is about hybrid learning, and where we use technology together with the normal learning. It is a school management system, so we manage the whole school, student information management system, a communication gateway, CRM solution, and we provide mobile apps for all these users with a lot of integrations with Office 365 and so on. It is modular based, so you can buy different modules. Whatever you see in the top is the CRM module, the gray color. In the middle is the LMS and academic module, red color. We have the apprenticeships and thesis module, so people can apply for jobs and companies can post jobs, and people who have to do apprenticeships or internship, they go and apply for those jobs. We have the quizzes and surveys module, which is used for both questionnaires and online exams. The admission and sales modules, as described, the billing module and online payments, the bus management, and the books and library. All these are web-based and mobile-based. Of course, mobile app, it is mostly related to communication, calendaring, attendance, and consents. And we have a different set of portals for different type of users. So we support back office users who have different roles and can do different things. It can be accounting, admission, register, and so on. The educators portal, the students portal, parents portal, applicants portal, and alumni portal. So the idea behind Cluster is to put all things to working together. So we have a unified system that can do all in one database, where we can have multiple institutions with one multi-tenant database. We can support the open school idea so people can communicate easily and do different things, and they can log on to the system to do their job and get the information they want. And of course, adaptive learning, adaptive curriculum things is what we want to add eventually. The system is role-based, and different type of users can log on to the system, having different role types and roles. Here are some examples. And of course, it's very well integrated with a number of applications, including all these you see here: Microsoft Office 365, Teams, G Suite, Moodle LMS, Canvas, Brightspace, WebEx, DocuSign, Zoom, Apple School Management, and a few other things. So what makes Cluster unique then? It is the fact that it's end-to-end, that is for all educational levels, so you can take things that you use in a higher school and use it in a lower education, or vice versa, which is very, very useful sometimes. It has been tested in multiple countries and multiple educational systems. It is cloud SaaS based, It is quite easily configurable. Of course, you need consulting services. It's a huge application, but it is easily configurable. We don't need to write code. We try to make no-code approach. It employs in specific areas adaptive learning and artificial intelligence, and we strive to do more on that. And it's truly global. It has been used in multiple languages, multiple localization settings. That's all. Thank you very much for attending. Let me switch to see if there is any Q&A. Here are 4 questions. If you want to send any question, any comment, anything that you would like to discuss, we are here to discuss it. And please let us know if this kind of seminars is interesting for you, or it was something new or something that you liked attending. Tell us more about it, and we should know if we should stick mostly to the presentation of the software and things that we want to do, or things we want to present about the software. Our next webinar probably is going to be about hacks, small hacks on the software. We are going to do a presentation on transportation also very soon, and a new presentation about the new admission module, especially the parents admission section, which is something new we added. So this is probably something we planned for the end of August. Let us know. We give it 2 more minutes for any question if it exists. This time we kept our time. Okay, guys, thank you very much for the for attending. Have a nice weekend.